Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Oreninc podcast series. I'm joined by Mickey Fulp, the Mercenary Geologist, and this is episode 29. Mickey, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me once again, Kai.
Yeah, it's been a while. The markets are what they are, and both of us been traveling conferences over the last it's been 6 weeks actually since we last spoke. We chatted, if I'm not mistaken, in Beaver Creek. It's been busy since. You've been to New Orleans. I've been traveling as well. Bunch of conferences in Europe as well. And it's time to get caught up on things and take a look at the markets.
It certainly is, and I actually think it's been 2 months since we've spoken. I know when we were in Beaver Creek, it was warm, and it's not warm where I'm at right now.
No, I'm sitting in Vancouver right now, and I think it's just barely above freezing out here. So.
Yeah, well, I'm in Albuquerque, and it's below freezing right now. So.
Okay, now Vancouver doesn't get as cold, but yeah. No, I was lucky I didn't have to, what is it called? Scratch the car, like de-ice it. As always, I think we've always prepared a little agenda here. We're going to start off with the Oreninc Index real quick, take a quick look. There's not too much to report, unfortunately. But since we haven't done it in 2 months almost, it's time to do that. We're going to talk about the metal prices, obviously. You're going to run us through gold price, base metal prices as well. And we're going to round off things with our number of the week, as always. But before we get started, I quickly want to thank our sponsors, because without them, this podcast wouldn't be possible. Nexus Gold, New Legacy Gold, and Prospero Silver. Please go visit their websites, take a look at them, because they're the ones making this happen here. So thanks to them. The Oreninc Index, as always, I'll start us off with there. Same as the gold price, we're pretty much range bound here, between 20 and 30 points. We've only seen one major breakout, and that was mid-October, when the brokers actually decided to show up for some reason. I still have no idea what triggered that, but all of a sudden we've seen 11 brokered deals and two bigger deals as well. We've seen Bonterra raise money. They closed a $21 million financing, and we've seen Integra raise close to $20 million in the same time frame. And what is significant, Integra, they have a U.S. project. They're not flow-through eligible, but they were able to raise $14 million in a bought deal and in another little over $5 million, I think, in a regular private placement. And the most interesting part about that is it came with no warrants attached. So that's something that should be applauded to a degree here as well, and the market should appreciate that. Other than that, we haven't seen too many bigger financings just this week. The biggest one we've seen was a $14 million financing out of Seabridge and our Oreninc Index this week. And we're just about to publish it here in a few hours because it's Monday morning here. Is 24.7, down from 29. So, but we're still range bound, nothing too exciting happening. We're seeing roughly 20 deals, plus minus 5 a week. Total dollars is sort of average in the $50 million range. But the brokers pretty much are gone again this week, so there's not much activity. And Mickey, I think we're going to discuss here in a second as well the activity we're seeing towards the year end in terms of venture volume, but also in general activity in the market in terms of tax loss selling. What do you see out there?
Well, the Toronto Venture Exchange today is at its low since the spring of 2016. In April, early April, mid-April of 2016. And that, if you remember, was when the price of gold started to rise and went in on a little bull market run for 6 or 7 months. So the index just keeps trickling down on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. No massive sell-off. Volumes have been at their yearly lows over the last couple of days. So the question becomes, is this due to tax loss selling? And if so, where's the volume that you would expect during tax loss selling? We don't see it. No massive sell-off yet. Now we've got another 4 weeks to go or 5 weeks actually, to go till the end of tax loss selling. Markets usually bottom, or the venture exchange, sometime in mid-December. So my take would be that the early wave of tax loss selling. The people that try to front run that phenomena have pretty much taken care of their business. We're in a low right now, but I would expect a lower venture exchange going forward till, say, the end of, let's say, right before Christmas, sometime in that
Yeah, it's like
range.
looking at the volumes here on the venture. It looks like the sell-off you called it, sort of the tax loss already happened mid-October, and right now it's just the snake and the rabbit kind of game. Who moves first, right? Because the gold price is fairly stable, and we're going to discuss that in a second as well. It's really the end of tax loss, and nobody wants to move first. And I'm starting to suspect that come early December, maybe the smart money or whoever wants to be the front-running money might come back in the market. Not triggering massive volumes, but maybe triggering a slight increase in share prices. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know if past is prologue. I would expect um, tax loss selling and once again to pick up significantly in early December and continue into mid-December. So I'm looking for a venture exchange lows to occur during that period of time. I think we've got a ways to go. Certainly, there has arguably been a wave of tax loss selling that occurred in October, but I think that it's coming again. So the price of gold has been very range bound from 1,200 to 1220, 1225 since we last spoke, and certainly from early October, despite a higher U.S. dollar during this period of time. Definitely gold and copper have both been moving in conjunction with a rising dollar. They've been moving lower when the dollar rises, but when the dollar gives back a half a point, which it's done over the last couple of weeks, then the precious metals and even copper have responded to that. But to me, the tax loss selling opportunity still exists. And by that, I mean the opportunity is to buy oversold stocks. We just talked about a stock before we came on the air, which we won't mention the name, but a very good explorer, which is down 2/3 from its yearly highs. So it's a good company. It's time to be searching for good companies that are oversold and beaten down that will respond once tax loss selling is over.
Oh, and there's certainly lots of opportunities out there, not just the one we discussed, I think. So, and but one thing as
Well,
well.
I'm making my list of 10. So, and I'm not having trouble finding candidates for buying during the bottom here, which once again I expect sometime in around mid-December.
Mickey, do you have an overview of how the TSX Venture is composed right now? I'm just
No,
curious.
I do not. Last time I looked, it was the top 400 companies by market cap. And certainly I would think that marijuana stocks have started to become a very significant portion of the index. I
That's
have
what I mean,
not seen,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and probably in the first of the year it was a bunch of cryptocurrencies too. Now I do not know how often it is rebalanced or recalculated. That may only be on a 6 month or a 1 year basis.
Because what I was hinting at exactly what you just said, like a lot of pot stocks in there, but I'm also curious about the crypto stocks because Bitcoin just broke below $5,000 today, so that's one of the reasons that maybe the venture exchange is drifting lower while we see, let's say, flat or range-bound trading mining stocks at this point.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're seeing the guy. All I have to do is look at my portfolio and tell you that the explorers and developers are going down. So, from my point of view, the movement of the Toronto Venture Exchange and this downtick over the last couple of months is correlative to what's going on with individual stocks. And really the venture exchange, if you really look at it, is still driven by gold.
Oh, it definitely is. Definitely is. Just curious how many new stocks from the pot space entered, came on the scene here, and are somewhat responsible because after the bubble or the initial hype within Canada here, it sort of slowed down. Just curious how much effect that had on the venture.
I really have no idea, but we talked a bit about gold and how it's been range bound. Copper over the last 2 months since we last talked in Beaver Creek has been even more range bound between 275 and 285, and it's just flatline. Well, it has some a little bit of volatility if you want to talk about 280 plus or minus 5 cents. Goes up and down between those levels, often as the price of the U.S. dollar goes up or down.
As always, Mickey, we close with our number of the week. And why don't you start us off? What's your number this year?
Well, my number this week is minus 9%, and that is the CRB Commodities Research Bureau's index year to date, down 9%. Now, be aware that that is a futures commodities index, and it contains a lot of stuff other than metals and energy, but it gives you an idea about how the entire commodities suite has underperformed U.S. markets this year.
Interesting. I have a similar number, but not commodity related. My number of the week is minus 20%, and that's Apple, down from its 52-week high, is down 20%, and that's what I see as one of the triggers, or the FANG stocks trading negatively as one of the triggers for our mining space, and a gold rally in that, or not a rally, but as a safe haven investment. Because if you get the mutual fund money and the older generation moving out of the FANG stocks, I think that could be a nice trigger for us. So I was looking at that, and my phone, and I've got a trading app here. It kept alerting me to Apple trading lower and lower today, and the Dow losing points. So I figured that'd be a good one to look up. And indeed, it's minus 20% from the 52-week low. So I thought that was quite interesting.
I think that is quite interesting, and there's always buying opportunities. There's always ways to go long in markets, no matter what kind of markets we are saddled with at any one particular time. So always looking for something that is undervalued, oversold, and becomes a long opportunity.
Well said, Mickey. Thanks so much for your time this morning. As always, much appreciated. And we'll talk again soon. And Mickey, how can people find you again? They should know by now, but...
mercenarygeologist.com, and at Mercenary Geo is the Twitter feed.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mickey. Talk very soon.
Thanks a lot, Kai.